Hey guys, I have this video here from Rax that is a summary of the interview that our brother Try had with Jonathan Rogers. It was an awesome interview. I watched it live. It was really good. Thank you, Try, for including my question in there, dude. And but the interview is 2 hours long. No way I react to the full 2 hours, right? So that is why we are going to watch the summary that Rax does. These summaries are always really cool. And I wanted to talk about the information shared in there with you guys. So let's go.
Okay. So let's go over very quickly the interview that just happened. It was done by Talkative Try. I thought it was a great interview. Got to the heart of a lot of really important questions that he and the community were coming up with. Let's just blast through them. So, are we going to get endgame changes before 0.5? This was supposed to be the endgame patch. We didn't get it, but last patch they gave us like an endgame update in between. Are we going to get one of those? We're not going to get new content, but if there's something mechanically wrong or something they could fix, we could get that.
I was a little bit baited when Mark said in the thing that, no, we are going to do it in a future update, like some Atlas rework or something. And I was baited. Maybe they do it like 0.3.1 and they do 0.4.1. Well, they are confirming in here that that is not the case. I misinterpreted that because of my hopium that I am always huffing, right? We have to wait for 0.5. Not a big deal. I can wait. It is just that the interpretation I had originally, you know.
So all the juicy stuff is coming next patch. Will it be more deterministic to get to the Arbiter because he unlocks juicing mechanics in the endgame now? He gives you rare tablets. They said they will update the quest lines to getting toward him, but they also want some degree of randomness. They don't want you to just walk to the Arbiter for free. But they have toned down the randomness between macro blocks, which is how the endgame is set up on the back end that we can't see.
Okay, I understand what he's trying to say here. Basically, with the macro block, what he's meaning is that when you find one citadel, the other 2 citadels are close by so that you can get the 3 fragments, right? But you still have to find one in the first place. I am okay with some degree of randomness for this, but I also think that it should be for the Uber version, like you do in Path of Exile 1 even. I know that people don't like when you compare it with PoE 1, but hear me out. Remember that once you defeat the Arbiter of Ash once, now when you defeat subsequent citadels, you get the upgraded version of the fragments to be able to fight the Uber version of the Arbiter, right? I am okay with that one, requiring the citadels to fight the Uber, and you require the Uber fragments, right? But why do I need randomness to fight the first version? You are locking me out of a potential currency farming with the Uber fragments by luck. So someone that has better luck will have access to this farm better, right? And you could just make it more deterministic to fight the normal version. You get the points, you get the way that you can get the Uber fragments, and now you introduce the randomness to get the Uber fragments, and then you can sell them or use them or whatever. This happens in PoE 1 too. How? In PoE 1, you are deterministic to fight the normal version of the Ubers by getting the fragments in the, for example, to fight Jazzarus, you just have to do the 4 Conqueror, I believe, maps, and you get the 4 fragments. Same goes for the Elder, same goes for the Shaper. For the Maven, you have deterministically to do the 10 maps with her witnessing. Same goes for the Eater of Wars and the City in Exile. But these are the normal versions. Now, for the Uber version, there is an element of randomness because the fragments for the Uber version drop randomly in tier 17 maps, and you don't know what fragment you are going to get. It is random. You understand what I am trying to say? You could make more deterministic the normal version and make the Uber version with an element of randomness. Maybe that is what they are going to do. I don't know.
So overall, it will improve. Can we zoom out further for the Atlas? They will look into it. They didn't do it earlier because of performance issues. Now they'll probably allow.
Please, because it is insane. I need to zoom out more and give me the search function too, please.
Us to do it. Are they going to relax on any of the death penalties in softcore? They want defenses to matter and the ladder raise to not be just who builds the best glass cannon build. So reaching the max level should be a huge deal, like it should be aspirational. If they can find a different way for people to stop, so essentially they don't want to nerf the XP penalty is the first part. Second part is if they can find a different way for people to stop item exploiting by dying on purpose, then they won't have to have the penalty where you lose the mechanics if you die. And they said that they don't think the number of portals going down is a problem. I'm pretty sure the community is going to disagree on this one.
I disagree. You guys know that I think Jonathan is based. I like him a lot. And we share a lot of the same taste, at least on what he has shared publicly about things that he likes, right? But I think that in these kind of questions where there are several layers, because this is, let's be honest, guys, this is a complex question. And I know that don't keep following it up because you have other things to answer and you have limited time. Also, you don't want to be too confrontational because of the setting. We understand that, right? But this is a question that requires several follow-ups because you can be, or in this case, Jonathan can be really selective on what part of the question he wants to answer. So I watched the interview live and he focused way more on the part of the experience. And we as Path of Exile players, we have come to accept that the experience penalty is not going away. And I understand why they like it. And he's correct. Getting to 100 is a huge achievement because it requires not only grinding, but it also requires you to not die a lot because then you will never get there, no matter how much you grind, right? So I understand. And I also dislike the glass cannon meta. I support you, Jonathan, that it is good that we have to build defenses. I support you that you want the endgame to be some sort of pseudo hardcore. It is not real hardcore, but you want to penalize players for dying so that they have to build defenses. I love it. It is still too much. And it is because of this last sentence in here. They don't think the number of portals going down with more using is a problem. It is a problem, man. It is a problem. Because there are too many layers of getting fucked in the ass. So when you die, you lose experience. Okay, we accept that. You also lose the waystone that you put in because you only had one portal, so you lose the waystone. You lose the points in the tablets because you use the thing. If you died with stuff in the ground that you didn't pick up before, that thing is lost too. You waste time because you were in the map, and if you spend 2-3 minutes in the map and you die, you also wasted time. And on top of that, you can't reuse the same map. So what are we doing, man? It is too much. Just remove one of those. In my opinion, what should be removed? Or you give me 2 or 3 portals instead of 1 to be able to put the 3 tablets, or you give me only 1 portal and I can reattempt with full tablets the same map. And it is solved. Now, for that last one, he answers, no, but we don't want people rejoining the same map and failing after farming what they want to farm because that is the generated behavior or whatever the fuck. Let them do it, man. You know where people do that. And again, I know people do that in PoE 1. People go in a map, they buy 10,000 Dunes maps, they go in, they only do the harvest, and they go out of the map, and they open Dunes again, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. And that is basically the same gameplay loop. But in PoE 2, you get penalized even more for doing it, because now you are in PoE 1, you don't have the infinite atlas, the traversing the atlas. In PoE 2, you do. So if you try reattempting the same map over and over again on purpose, by the way, you have to die, and you are losing experience. Let's assume that this person doesn't care about the experience. They are level 98, let's say, and they don't care if they die. Okay. You are not traversing the world. So you have to incentivize people to traverse the world. If it is more rewarding for them to stay in one place, then there is a problem with the infinite atlas, right? Because the idea is that you are incentivizing people to explore. So the only thing you will need to do in here is, or give me 3 portals and everything else stays the same, or allow me to retry the same map after I lose the 1 portal, applying the tablets again, and if you think this can create the generate behavior, just incentivize people more to traverse the atlas. And there you have two solutions for this problem, and you are not removing punishment, penalization. People will still try to be tanky. People will still try to not die. In my opinion, it is easier to just give me 2 and 3 portals. It is a quick solution. Trying to manipulate the Atlas is maybe harder. But maybe they are. I am just talking shit in here because they are going to rework this whole shit for 0.5 and it doesn't matter.
So, if anything, it doesn't seem like any immediate changes are coming, and they don't seem to want to remove the XP penalty. This might be a really unpopular opinion, but I don't know if these exact penalties are correct, but I do agree with their philosophy that there should be penalties for dying in softcore.
Exactly. I don't think anyone is discussing that. We are happy with that. We like it. I love that you have to build tanky characters or that you have to juggle the two things. If you are too offensive and not enough tanky, you are a glass cannon. If you are too tanky and not enough offensive, then you are not efficient, you are too slow, maybe you don't have enough damage to complete the content. I like that you have to balance these two things. It is awesome. Love it. But it comes a point where it is too much, man.
Everybody just making just the biggest glass cannon build they possibly can, I think is honestly a very bad way to make the game. Are these penalties the exact right ones? Maybe not, but I won't shed one tear if they don't change this.
Also, I know that hardcore players don't give a flying fuck about this, and they even make fun of softcore players because of that. Oh, you are complaining because just don't die, man. Just don't die. You won't have a problem.
Is Jonathan going to stream his gameplay? Because he said before he was going to. He said a streamer that he talked to told him it isn't a good idea. I couldn't possibly agree with this advice.
I also told this before, by the way. The first time that he said that he was going to do it, I told you, I don't know what video is. But if you can find the video, I said he shouldn't do it. People are going to hyper-analyze his gameplay. They are going to say that he sucks, and that's why the game sucks, because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's putting that into the game. It is a bad idea, lose-lose situation. You are not going to win anything by doing this. Just don't do it, man.
More. If Jonathan streams, it'll just be a lose-lose situation, where it otherwise could be a great opportunity to...
He said exactly the same words that I said. It is a lose-lose situation, man. There is nothing to gain from this. Don't ever do it, Jonathan. If you watch this video or someone close to Jonathan, don't ever play the game publicly.
Watch the developer play and see how he plays and have a conversation with him. It will just turn negative no matter what happens. I think whoever told him this is great advice.
The only way it can be good is I don't know, if you beat Ben in a race. If you don't beat Ben in a race, they are going to dissect it in some bad way.
Why were the monster packs reduced? They said, well, originally it was just wrong. It's not supposed to be a nerf. They raised the rewards that compensated for the monster reduction, but it was limiting the amount of builds that were viable. People were just making spammy AoE builds like Lightning Arrow and Lightning Spear. They will look at the data of what comes up this next season, and if it's wrong, they'll change it again.
I like the change. You guys know that I like the change. I also understand people that like builds that rely on pack size and they don't like it as much. I understand the perspective. I think this is a step in the correct direction, but we still have to actually play it to see how it feels. And then we will know 100% if it was good or bad, right?
Did they lower the number of rares? No. And it's also not reducing the number of monster packs. It's reducing the number of monsters in a pack.
Which is important for the map to not feel empty. Because ask this, like, are we going to be in a walking simulator because now there are less monsters? No, because the amount of packs is the same. You are going to be finding monsters all the time. It is just that per pack there are less monsters. And I honestly love it.
People are worried that the lower density is going to be a walking simulator. He said it definitely won't be that.
Again, I think it is positive. I understand the opposite perspective. We will have to play and actually see how it feels. Because the underlying philosophy, I agree with it, man. You know that I hate that the best build is the fastest build or the most AoE build. I want several builds to be possible. And you had a meta game where if your build didn't behave in this single way, then your build sucks. Even if the build can complete the content, but because it doesn't behave in this exact way, then it sucks. I don't like that. I want different archetypes to be viable.
Ritual rebalance.
There is still going to be a meta game, and the people will adapt to the new feeling or whatever. I understand that. But if before there were 5 viable options and now you have 10 viable options, then it is better.
For the lower number of enemies, yes. So no, none of the endgame mechanics should be nerfed as a result of this change. Are they going to make rares more interesting to fight in the future? Yes, but right now it's not a top priority because they got way too many other things that they need to release. Are they going to make visual clarity improvements? They do this on a case-by-case basis when they see that certain skills are a problem. What's their opinion on the ROA? The ROA shouldn't be mandatory, but they think it should be in the game, and they're balancing it so the cost is right for the reward.
They can never take the ROA away, by the way, guys. They can't ever take it away because they already sold a microtransaction for the ROA and some people bought it. So they can't take it away. The ROA is here to stay. Just get used to the ROA existing. What is the solution? I don't have a problem with the ROA existing. The solution is exactly what he's saying. Balance it out. If it is not mandatory and only certain builds use it, everybody's happy.
That you get for using it. Do they think the Druid will be meta next season? They said this is very likely because many people will play it. They're testing the endgame versions internally and making improvements to builds that aren't very good, like the werewolves, like Wolfpack is not very good. So they're buffing it, they're adding passives to the skill tree, and they're adding keystones to make it work. They also said there will be a...
By the way, I am reading here to see if he said it. Apparently he doesn't have it in here. One of the keystones that he's doing that a lot of people are finding cool is that you will be able to hold, if you apply that keystone, you will be able to hold a talisman and a scepter at the same time so that you can hang more buffs to your minions, but with a penalty of 50% spirit. Maybe that is a lot. But hey, also if you have a good scepter with a lot of spirit, maybe you mitigate it, maybe you result in a net positive. We have to wait and see. But hey, that sounds cool. Like you can be a werewolf with a bunch of wolves, but not specializing. Apparently all werewolves builds will have wolves, but you can specialize on the werewolf being the cool thing or the damage, or the wolves being the damage, and maybe hybrids even. So I think that is cool, man.
A video out later this week where they came up with some builds that they will show us. Excuse me. Will the Druid have more companions in the future? They could, but it's not in the near future, and it's not supposed to be a primarily minion character.
Dude, I understand, but give me a bear. Give me a grizzly bear that you can only have one. Like Rexar with Misha, but I have a companion. It is not a minion. It is a companion, like the Pokemon that the hunters catch. That you can catch a Pokemon, but this is not catching a Pokemon. You just have a bear. Give me the bear companion, brother. I would love that. And you have one big, juicy grizzly bear that is your boy, you know.
Why did they make the totems require charges? Because they don't want all spellcaster builds to just be totem builds because they're superior. Obtaining the charges needs to be decently challenging, so when you use it to upgrade the skill, it feels powerful.
I'll be honest with you guys, I dislike how charges work in PvE2, and that they don't give you... They are a pain in the ass to obtain. And I understand that when you actually use them, you get powerful effects, okay? I get that. I don't know, maybe balance it better because they are a pain in the ass to obtain. It is not fun doing so. I have heard a lot of conversations when Jonathan and Mark are discussing the game, and they always say that the objective is for stuff to simply be fun, right? Is this fun or is it not fun? I am telling you right now, collecting or generating charges is not fun. It is not fun. I dislike how they work. They work way better in PoE1. Also, they don't have inherent bonuses, so if you don't spend them, they are useless. I don't know, man. I don't know. Also, 3 charges maybe is too much. Maybe if it was 1 or 2, or I don't know, man. Maybe they will get this balance better when it is not as much of a pain in the ass to generate, but they are fairly challenging so that everything is balanced. If they can nail the balance where it feels fun and good, okay, I withdraw my statement. But so far with what I have played that involves charges, it is not fun. It is honestly a pain in the ass. And it makes you want to avoid any skill that requires charges. I see that a skill requires charges and I am immediately Maybe not, man. Maybe I don't try that because chariots. Oh, fuck that. You know, that is not what you want players to feel.
More info on the druid endgame. Okay, here's the thing about the druid. They said full spell totem is viable, and they said the wyvern flame breath is going to stack ignites on every hit, which will be very good for bosses. They're thinking about applying this to other skills in the game. And with full uniques, you will be able to fly around as your dragon and just burn the whole map down. Will they add moving while attacking to melee skills? They don't think they're going to do this because they think it'll make the melee characters feel floaty. Why do warriors have more downsides than the other classes in their part of the tree? They said they try to make the upside a higher magnitude to compensate for this, and they don't feel like it's a huge problem. They would prefer to add more of these kiss curse mechanics nodes around the tree.
Bro, definitely the warrior has the worst kiss curse shit, man. Like if everyone is saying it, it is because of something. It is because of something. Man.
To be honest, I will.
It has a reason.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would respectfully disagree with this. I feel like the warrior side does feel like really bad. It's like plus 40% more damage at minus 20% attack speed. That is a I don't know the actual numbers, but it's like a devastating penalty. And it just feels so bad. It just feels so bad to walk over there and click those nodes. I made all the classes multiple times. I feel like walking over there does feel worse. So when they said that didn't feel like a huge problem right now, I'm not sure that I would agree with that. And then the fact that they would prefer to put more of those around the tree is probably going to make me lose sleep at night. What about hidden penalties like movement speed? The movement speed penalty on wearing heavy armor. They think thematically they like the feeling of it.
It is dog shit. Why does a character that moves faster is also more tanky? Because you have to remember that energy shield is better. So you have a fucking mage, a sorceress, a wizard, fuck them, that are using energy shield and they are more tanky and they are also faster than the warrior. Isn't the warrior strong? Isn't he supposed to be able to carry the heavier armor? This is dog shit, man. I understand the aesthetic, the thematic, and all of that, but it is dog shit. And if you are going to do it, then put something in the warrior intrinsically because he's a warrior or on a strength that makes you negate this. You know, okay, the armor itself has it so that if you are playing a sorceress and you put the heavy armor, then you get the penalty. But if you are a warrior, then you don't get it because you have some kind of implicit in your character or on a strength or on something that makes you negate it because you are a warrior. Then it is cool. But how it is currently, it sucks. Also, the worst part about it is the fact that it is hidden. We only know about it because of data mining or whatever. But why don't you let players know this? Why is this hidden? What does it accomplishes that benefits the player to have this as hidden information?
Not super thrilled about that, but it is what it is. People feel that picking up power-ups like remnants and infusions is not worth it. Are they balancing this? One change they're doing is making the duration longer so it doesn't feel as frantic. I do think that is a big part of the problem. I played the sorcerer last league and I played the infusions, and you're essentially just playing connect the dots, right? You kill monsters and you go.
Every time that I hear the sorcerer soaking, I am happy. But I understand that I shouldn't be like that. So I will give actual constructive criticism. It is not fun picking up shit.
To get your infusions for your spells, and then the next one is powerful. It was a very great question from it. Just really doesn't feel good. If they last a lot longer, that is a step in the right direction towards solving the problem, so it doesn't feel as frantic. That is part of the problem. I'm not sure if I'm still thrilled to use these, even with that change, but we'll see. Future of rarity on gear, they want to replace it with a valuable mod that isn't more damage, that players would like to have, that isn't mandatory but helps you. They say that's not easy to do. And they said this already on the previous campfire, or whatever it's called, the interview, but they reiterated again that a lot of the people that think they understand how rarity works and post guides on it or whatever is not correct. It's way more complex than anybody.
It doesn't matter if it is not correct or if it is complex or whatever. It is undeniable that it is better to have rarity on your gear than not have it for the purposes of getting more currency. It is undeniable. The exact numbers, okay, we got the numbers wrong. But it is true that it is better to get more currency to have the rarity in this shit. So, hear me out. You don't even need to replace it with a different mode. Hear me out, GG, and this is crazy, man. This is crazy, but hear me out. What if rarity doesn't apply to currency? I know. Crazy idea, man. This is a crazy innovation. Nobody has ever thought about this. Just leave it as is. You don't need to change it. You don't need to change numbers, affixes, anything. Just make it not apply to currency. Everyone will be happy. And again, I will do it again. It is like that in PoE1 and it works and nobody complains about it. What up, man?
But they don't look at them unless they have a change in mind beforehand that they want to confirm with the stats. They felt like looking at the stats first and then making that drive changes is a great way to make big mistakes in the game.
By the way, I agree completely with this part. Base as fuck. You guys know that I went to university for physics, and you learn statistics because you need statistics when doing experiments, right? And yes, this is a great insight. You do something and then check the statistics instead of checking the statistics and then do something. So yes, great thing.
Game, as someone who studied mathematics and statistics for my undergrad, we would always laugh at statisticians and say statistics is a very interesting field of research because you can make statistics essentially say whatever you want by just sliding over like what piece of the pie you're showing. So the mathematicians and the statisticians that I grew up studying with couldn't possibly agree more with this statement. I think that's a great insight from Jonathan.
And honestly, I am glad that it works that way. I am glad they do that because I have said in other games where I think they focus too much on statistics. So when players say, I am looking at you, Blizzard, if players say that something feels bad, they go and look at the numbers to see if something feels bad. And if they don't see it reflected in the statistics, then they say, no, players are wrong. No, baby. If players are saying something is wrong, something is wrong. You know what I'm saying? The numbers say something, and yes, you should pay attention somewhat to the numbers, but the player experience is also something that you have to take into consideration. And there are games that balance only around numbers and they don't take into consideration player experience, and that is a mistake. So I am glad that GGG looks at the thing first and then looks at the number. That is a correct way to go.
Are the Val Temple rewards all from chests and bosses, or do the monsters drop loot? The monsters drop loot too, and that loot can be juiced if you...
I want to further clarify so that people don't think that I am an idiot. I am not saying ignore the numbers. You have to look at the numbers. And yes, sometimes the number reveals stuff that is not apparent. I also understand there is a scenario where someone tells you something and then you look at the numbers and the numbers prove them wrong. That also happens. But again, that is a job of the developer to be nuanced and to extract the information about the player experience, what they themselves experience, and the numbers. That is your job as a developer, interpreting all this information and arriving at the correct conclusion. If you follow blindly any of those, then you are not correctly doing your job. That is my final point in there, because I also don't want to disestimate the importance of numbers, because sometimes numbers point something out that is important, or they can even negate the perception of someone as they are saying it with rarity, for example. But players do notice, using rarity as an example, that there is something wrong in there, right? So you have a perfect example in there.
You buff the individual rooms, so the loot, the rewards will come from everywhere. Are the new leagues seem more grand and developed than the previous ones? Are the newer leagues the quality that we should expect going forward? Are the older ones going to get buffed? They said the newer leagues are what they expect for releases in PoE 2, and 0.5 should buff like everything. So they're really...
That is a good thing to know, because let's be honest, guys. Expedition, Breach, what are the other two? I don't even know. Delirium and Ritual. They pale in comparison to what the new Incursion is and to what the Abyss was. I think that probably the best one in there is Ritual. That is the most interactive. The other ones are just whatever, right? So if they are revamping all of those, that is a huge patch. Because when they say we are going to rework the endgame, I was expecting like an Atlas rework, and maybe an Atlas 3 rework, and maybe something different on how tablets work or how you use your maps. Maybe some changes to the Infinite Atlas. I wasn't expecting them to change the mechanics themselves. So that is why this patch is so huge. That makes me hyped as fuck, man, to be honest with you.
They're really touting the next expansion, or for the endgame, is going to be huge. How did the release in China go compared to the global release? They essentially just said, fine.
The other thing I wanted to know referencing the mechanics is that the Fate of the Val mechanic, the incursion, building the temple thing, is huge. And Abyss was huge. So if every subsequent mechanic that they release for Path of Exile 2 is this huge, mechanics are going to be insane, man.
What piece of the community feedback shaped this patch the most? They said making more build diversity and balance changes is the main thing. How do they go about buffing ascendancies? Mark does research based around why don't people play this, and then what would make people play this. Why isn't there a shape-shifting ascendancy class? They want ascendancies to be used on multiple classes and not tie it down to one, but they might release one that is more for shape-shifting, but would also give bonuses to other classes for doing things similar to shape-shifting.
I know for a fact, well, not for a fact, in case something random happens, but I think it is very likely that the third ascendancy for the druid that has not been released, that we will get in the future, will be more shape-shifting focus than the two that we want right now. And I don't want to say I guarantee you, but I pretty much guarantee you it is going to be like that. Out of the 3 ascendancies for the druid, that one will be the one that will give you the most benefits if you decide to go down the route of shape-shifting.
Pinnacle boss HP was nerfed. Is there a plan to make it harder for the top-end builds? Not right now. They don't want to limit the amount of viable builds, but maybe they'll change it later. Why was the boss resistance window added? They only did that to prevent preloading them with damages and ailments to essentially just kill them instantly where they stand. It only lasts a few seconds.
I don't have a problem with that.
Tablets are hard to manage because their icons look similar and we don't have a stash tab for it. They said they'll look into it and change.
I saw a post on Reddit about this, and the person did like a little color into each tablet, and it looked cool, man. I will be on board with this change. It's not a big deal, but it makes the game visually cooler.
Change it. Are you satisfied with the current difficulty curve in the campaign? Mostly, but they want to ramp up the difficulty during an act, and then when you hit the next act, it should have a little bit of a break for you so you can breathe and get ingratiated into it. They also said that the weapon upgrades during the campaign aren't perfect right now because you can go many levels without getting an upgrade. The way that they plan to fix some of this in the future is to make the side quests more lucrative or to guide people over to them to power up. Will they ever put crafting info available like PoE2 DB or Path of Exile into the game so people don't have to tab out to get the info? They aren't completely against it, but they will never be able to obsolete those third-party sites, but it could be improved. Are ailments going to be harder to apply since monster health has gone up? They think that they have solved this, so it shouldn't be more difficult, and that's their philosophy. It shouldn't be more difficult to apply ailments. Will there be an easier way to farm uniques or fixed rewards in the game? They don't have a strict philosophy one way or another, but they do want a balance of fixed drops and random drops to be worthwhile. Can they detach MTX functionality, like how long you're in a map, or how many kills you got, or how many currency you picked up, from specific MTX items? They said they're trying to do that more and more.
By the way, this doesn't mean that you don't need the MTX to track it. You still need the MTX, but sometimes the tracking is tied to an MTX that you don't want to look at. So what you want to do is put a different skin, the one that you want to look at, and still track it. You still have to buy the thing. So I agree with that it should be that way. And if I am buying the thing and it is not that way, that I can see how that can piss me off.
We heard there's a transmog system coming. Is there an update on that? It's coming, but no update. Will there ever be...
That was one of the questions that I try to ask, by the way, about the transmog system. He didn't give much information about it, and I wanted to know more about it because you guys know that I have complained about this several times, and I have given several ideas of how it might work.
A different option from the campaign to run a bunch of interludes instead of the campaign. They hadn't thought about that. It won't happen in the short term, but they'll consider it. Is there going to be a way to apply many smaller dots instead of the current way to do a big hit to make one dot in order to play with that fantasy? They said it probably won't be the core way to do it, but it could be unlocked by certain things like uniques. What is the future structure of grinding gear games going to be like, working on PoE 1 and 2? Are you going to have separate teams, or are they going to work together on both games? They would prefer to have 2 separate teams, but they said that's very difficult. They're going to move toward it, but it's going to take a lot of time, so a lot of people will be working on both.
Hire me, GE, and I will work on both, gladly. Hire me, dude.
Can we have a separate keybind for sprint? They think that they can add that. death recap. I think they said maybe in the future. I didn't completely understand the answer.
He doesn't want to do it. They don't want to do it because they say it's too complex. That player want a detailed recap and they can do it. It requires too much. They don't want to do it. I have heard the answer to this question several times in several interviews. Maybe they will do it in the future, but trust me, it is not in the 1,000, in the first 1,000 priorities they have.
Different colors for prefixes and suffixes and map modifiers. They don't want to do that. Are chaos attacks going to be added to quarterstaffs? They went much bigger than that, and they said not immediately, but chaos damage needs a rework anyway. It needs like an ailment attached to it or something. They said chaos damage sucks. They're going to have to rework it.
Agree.
Performance improvements for opening the Atlas. They're working on it, but if you have major problems, clear your shader cache. Can we do slash passives in PoE 2? If you don't know what that means, in PoE 1, when you're done with the campaign, you slash passives, and it just tells you, did you get every permanent upgrade in the game that you needed? They said they would like to add it, but they don't want to do it with a chat command. They want to do it in the actual UI window.
Good, I agree.
Will we ever get auto sort inventory? Jonathan said Chris will kill him if he does this, and item weight has to be a thing. He said he's not a big fan of it, but he didn't say it was impossible. He didn't say it was out of the question. Can we have a profanity filter on console? He said they've never been asked this once in their life. They'll look into it. And will shapeshifting have MTX? There will be shapeshifting MTX. So overall, I mean,
there was one question that obviously Rax didn't include in here because it is irrelevant for actual info. But I will tell you, it was the very last question that Try asked. And thank you, Try, by the way. My brother Try. Thank you so much for asking. He asked, what is your interpretation, Jonathan, of what at City communing with the beast means? And Jonathan just answered, obviously, Try is asking this because of our history with at City and the beast. And Jonathan answered, you will have to wait and see. And honestly, I am glad he answered this way, guys. I am glad he answered this way. I wanted him to be ambiguous because I think that the best way to move forward with this is for them to remain ambiguous. If they fully, like, they are leaning into it, obviously, because that is why I thought about it in the first place. They are leaning into at City having sex with the beast. But being ambiguity is always the best thing because then the community has this type of discussions that we are having, right? Also, I don't want them to prove me wrong in any way, shape, or form. Ambiguity still gives me the way to maintain my theory. But if they are going to confirm it, hey, thank you so much. But I like the way he answered, man. I like the way he answered.
Again, I give credit to Talkative Try because he asked a lot of pretty important questions that the community cared about. And it's not so easy to go into an interview right after someone had, like Ziggy has like a 2 or 3 hour interview before him to ask most of the questions. It is not so easy to come up with like 50 questions that people would actually care about. But I thought the conversation was really good and definitely a worth a listen to besides just my recap. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good info.
Thank you, Rax, for this summary, brother. Much like for me that I yap a lot. Dude, look, I've been recording this shit for 40 minutes and this is a 16-minute interview, video. So yes, there is no way I can react to the full 2-hour thing. So thank you so much, Rax, for this summary. Great video. And talking about the interview itself, yes. Thank you so much, Try, for the interview. It was a great interview, man. Yes, for me personally, there are a couple of questions that I don't care about, but there are people that care about it. Like profanity filter on the console, I don't give a flying fuck. Not only do I don't play on console, but if there is not a profanity filter, I also don't give a flying fuck. But maybe if Try ask it, is because remember that Try opened the community to present questions. Someone suggested the question, right? So it was a great interview, man, in my opinion. It doesn't matter what type of player you are. At least 80% of the questions were relevant to you. At least. And I am being very, very conservative. Because I think that at least 90% of the questions were relevant for the whole community. But let's be more negative and let's say that 80% of the questions were relevant for the whole community. It is still pretty fucking good. I enjoyed the interview. I think it was awesome. And from both parts, both from Try and from Jonathan, it was awesome, dude. We know a lot more about the insight that goes into developing Path of Exile and the future of the game, which is awesome, and I love it. So thank you, Try, thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Rax, for this summary, dude. What do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I a clown? Am I a genius? views. Let me know everything in the comments below. I love reading comments even when they don't agree with me. Also remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. God bless you. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.